Hi everyone, I'm Rincey and this is Rincey Reads. So today I'm going to be doing a book review on Pride and Joy by Louisa Onomé. So in the story, you are mainly following this character named Joy. She is Nigerian Canadian and it is her mother's birthday weekend. And this year her mother's birthday just happens to fall on Easter weekend. So it is Good Friday when the story begins, and Joy has rented out this mansion for her mother's birthday party, and all of her family and extended family will be coming in to celebrate her mother's birthday. However, Joy's stress levels are quite high. Planning this party, trying to get everything perfect for her mother's birthday. She herself is a therapist, and so she has a client who just constantly keeps calling her and things like that, and she's just trying to do everything she can to be a good daughter and provide this really great party for her mother. And so they arrive at the mansion first, and Joy is setting things up, and her mother decides to go lay down and take a nap. And later in the day she sends some of the kids up to wake up her mother, and it turns out that her mother has passed away. And so at this point, one of her aunts has arrived at the mansion, and she declares that there is going to be a miracle this weekend, and Joy's mother is not actually dead, and she will be basically coming back to life on Easter Sunday. And so this Easter weekend becomes more than just a birthday party. It now becomes a sort of wake as well as a resurrection party for Joy's mother, and hijinks ensue from there. So this is a book that I kind of just picked up on a whim. I was at my library and I saw it, and I read the synopsis in the first chapter, and I was like, this seems kind of interesting and it's a little bit silly, so let me just pick it up and see. And it was interesting and a little bit silly. It's over the top. It's, even though it's dealing with topics like death and complicated families and things like that, this is very much in a lighthearted tone. You have all these different family members who are believing different things. Some of them are very strong in their faith, some of them are not, and so they have conflicting views on how this weekend should go, what they should be doing, whether or not this miracle is actually going to happen. There's a lot in here about Nigerian culture specifically, and the family dynamics that can happen within a Nigerian family, which, as someone who's not Nigerian but Indian, I've still found it extremely relatable. Just the sense of obligation that kids can feel, the deference you're supposed to show to your elders, and kind of how to navigate that, especially as you yourself become an adult and you have your own opinions and your own way of living your life and things like that that may not go with the way that they think you should be doing things. Joy has a cousin who is a pastor's wife, and she has a brother who she has a complicated relationship with, and there's lots of things in terms of their family history and stuff like that that gets brought up. So this is a book that I went in with pretty, I wouldn't say high expectations, but it felt like a book that I could really enjoy. In the end, I gave this book a 3 out of 5 stars, and there's a number of reasons for that. On the positive side, I think that this book deals with just the complications of that immediate grief of when someone very close to you passes away suddenly, and kind of just the complications around things like death and handling those situations, the way that different people can react to death and grief, and people's strong opinions about what should happen at wakes and funerals and all of these different things, what's considered proper and right, who should have the final say on all of those things. Is it the sister? Is it the kids? Etc. There are parts of this book that feel very silly, which might sound like a dig, but honestly, the lighthearted nature kind of helps balance out the topics that are being talked about. But the opposite side of that coin is that some of the characters that you meet in this book, some of the extended family members, things like that, they can sometimes feel like caricatures. This book does switch between perspectives between lots of different characters over the course of the book, and so the author does a good job of like providing some level of like backstory, especially to the other cousins and things like that. So you know that like their lives are more than just like these very simple boxes that they are put into. But because the book is dealing with so many characters and there's like this main plot line that you are also following, you don't really get like a lot of depth to the characters. So like, for example, there's the one cousin who is a pastor's wife who has like very strong and strict beliefs, but then like in a couple of chapters you see potentially ways that she's unhappy with the way her life is going. You have one character who is gay, and you know, you might think that because they are like a very religious family that he'd be like disowned or treated badly or something like that, but he's actually not, and so, which is kind of refreshing. And like you see that like his conflict or inner conflict basically has to do with him like telling his mom that he might be moving, and like, so it's not just the stereotype of like a son being gay and the parents not approving of it and things like that. Like he lives with another man that the parents know about and all of these different things. So like those are the things where it's like, oh, this is nice and this is refreshing. But I kind of also just wanted more from all of these different characters, which might just be a me thing, you know what I mean? Like, I know that I'm someone who, when there's multiple perspectives, I tend to just like enjoy certain perspectives more than others. You know that Joy is divorced and she has a son, and the way that they handle like the ex-husband and stuff like that is also feels like relatively fresh and not just like a stereotype of divorced couples, which again is nice, but I just wanted more of their relationship. And I also kind of just wanted to know more about like their marriage and what led to the end of their marriage, because they hint to certain things and they refer back to a couple of different situations, but like it doesn't really feel like enough. And I think that's why for me this book ended up just being a 3-star over anything higher than that, because I think I just kept wanting more. I think that the author does a good job of like creating really interesting characters, and I just kept being like, I wish I just got more of all of them. Like part of me wishes that this was like a series of books where you followed some of these characters over like the course of time or something along those lines, so that way you can just get more from each of them as opposed to just getting these little snippets or snapshots. The one thing I will say is that I've seen a lot of people, or at least I shouldn't say it a lot, but I've seen a handful of people like pitch this as like, if you enjoyed the book Black Cake, you would enjoy this book. And I strongly disagree with that sentiment, because they have very different vibes. Like, yes, these are both books about a mother dying and the kids having to reckon with that, and the kids also having like a difficult or complicated relationship with each other. But other than that, like, these are not the same book. I think that this is very lighthearted, and I think that if you're someone who loved Black Cake and are looking for another book like Black Cake, this is not going to scratch that itch for you. But I think that if you are someone who enjoys that just theme in general and are willing to take it in another story with different tones, if you are looking for books that just deal with complicated family relationships but in a more lighthearted way, then this would be a good book to pick up. There's also just like a handful of things with Joy specifically that I just didn't fully understand. She's a therapist who herself needs to be in therapy, or at least needs to be utilizing some of the techniques that she seems to be telling her clients about. I mean, not that therapists are perfect people, so I guess like that might just be my own bias. But to me, I'm just like, you know better, so why aren't you doing better? Just like little details like that. And I think that also kind of ties back into me wanting to know more about the divorce, just because it felt like it under explained why they got divorced. And part of me was just like, don't you know a little bit better since you're supposed to be a therapist for other people? But yeah, again, this might just be me being harder on therapists. But to me, I'm also just like, you know, the techniques, you know, like some of this stuff. So it feels like you should be able to process like these complicated relationships a little bit better, but I don't know. That might just be a complete miscalculation on my part. So yeah, overall, I feel like if you are looking for a book that is kind of on the more lighthearted side, this to me was a really fast read. And so if you are looking for kind of just like that hijinks, complicated family relationship sort of situation, this would be a really good book to pick up. But like I said before, I gave this book a 3 out of 5 stars. It wasn't necessarily my favorite book, but you know, it's a book that I finished and it's a book that had themes that I enjoyed. So definitely not a book that I hated. So yeah, that is everything I have for this video. Let me know down in the comments below if you have any questions or comments about this book, if you read it yourself. So yeah, that's all I have for now. And thanks for watching.